The biggest theme I hear now is weather events.
But when you can get a chicken in this country as well for less than a pint of beer, there's something going very, very wrong. 80% of all steaks consumed in this country are imported.
No way.
Yes, wait.
Am I right in thinking that beef has gone up an awful lot over the last 12 months? And so that's a yes. What's driving it?
Yeah, the French weren't impressed. Brutal English butchers.
Oops, sorry, we might need to cut that bit out.
Culture and quality is what sets us apart.
Yeah.
This phenomenal, intelligent woman.
Welcome to Supplied, the podcast about how fresh food gets to us from the people who produce it, move it and cook it. I'm Rob Burton. I've spent over 45 years both growing and then supplying fruit and veg to some of Britain's top restaurants. Now I get the chance to talk to people behind the food we eat. From specialist growers, committed suppliers and Michelin-star kitchens, we'll hear how they got started, why they do what they do and the lessons they've learned along the way. So whether you work in fresh food or just care where yours comes from, you're in the right place. This podcast is made possible by Fresho, the order management platform that helps food suppliers run smoother, faster and smarter operations. Now, let's get into the episode. My guest today is Lucianne Allen from Aubrey Allen, who supply meat and cheese to the hospitality sector. Her role in the business is as Sales and Marketing Director. To give this episode a title, it's going to be From a Barrister to a Butcher. And following a modern language degree, then law degree, she had a successful career as a criminal barrister, but then decided to move into her other great love, which was the business. She had no formal business or hospitality training, but was brought up in and around the business, not only working in the butcher shop from 6 years old, but also helping out her grandparents in their taxi business. She's a self-confessed, hopeless and unenthusiastic cook, but avid reader of menus and eating out. She has 2 teenage children, 3 dogs and a husband, who incidentally got told on their first date that he had to have a ribeye, not a fillet. Lucianne, welcome. Thanks for coming to talk to us today at Supplied.
Thank you, Rob.
Where should we start? Let's talk about you, because this is what it's all about. Barrister to a butcher. How did that happen then?
Ooh, that's a question everyone
Why
always
did it happen?
wants to know.
Yeah.
I think for me, life, is constantly evolving, I suppose, for everybody.
Yeah.
And partly it was having my son. It kind of gives you a slightly different perspective on life. And fair play and respect to a lot of women that continue with the criminal bar and have children. But for me, it just was creaking around the edges, and I just felt nobody was getting the best of me. And I wasn't getting the best of the other things. And also at the time, there were a lot of big changes that were going on to the bar, and it just felt like the right time.
Were you prosecution or defence barrister?
As a barrister, technically you do both.
Yeah.
Although even the
Generally.
judges would say, Miss Allen, what are you doing on that side?
Yeah.
On the very rare occasions I prosecuted.
Right, so mainly defence work then.
99% of my work was defence.
Any particular reason why you gravitated to defence rather than prosecution?
I don't know, really. I mean, I loved the interaction in the main with my clients, which might sound strange. I think prosecution is very much presentation of the facts. Defence is more weaving through all the facts and finding how you can present your client, the case, in the best light.
Yeah.
There's a sort of element of storytelling. It's strange, really, because my pupil master, they call them supervisors now, I think. But my pupil master, who's now a very successful judge, he mainly did prosecution. So I think it's one of those things, really. I'm a sort of person that will natter away to the ushers and to the solicitors and the runners, and it's building a relationship as much with them as anything else that defines where your career goes. And I got a lot of repeat business from some of my clients, the defendants and their mothers.
And their mothers?
Yeah, so I had this one lovely lady. I mean, rough diamond, salt of the earth, everything in between. And she had a series of sons, 7, I think, and she absolutely, seemed to adore me. So every time her sons got in trouble, which was frequent, she would call upon Miss Allen.
So I suppose that sounds like you got the comment, he's a good boy, really, but he's in with the wrong crowd.
No, I would say not at all.
No?
She knew exactly
she knew exactly what she got.
What she got.
Yeah.
She knew a lot in life, and I suppose she just bore it.
How do you... So you've got a brief.
Yeah.
You read it, and you are certainly honour bound. Does the law dictate that you have to give your best for that particular. The question where I'm going on this is, if you've read the brief, it's like this individual is as guilty as they come, but you've got to defend them. How do you do that when you've read it? You've come to your opinion, and it is your opinion based on the facts as you've seen them. So how do you then stand up and say, actually, no, they didn't do this?
I only learnt this phrase the other year. My children taught it me. What's the hill you would die on, Mum? I said, what on earth are you going on about? What hill? And they explained, what is the thing that you believe most in life that you'd be willing to die for? And for me, it's our jury system. It's our whole criminal justice system. Yeah. So to answer your question, it is not for me to have an opinion in that instance. It is for me to look at it from the prosecution's point of view and to work out, have they done enough? Have the police brought enough good, clean, compelling evidence to make a jury sure? Yeah. That's their job. Yeah, my job is to throw rocks at it.
Yes.
So, and I loved it. You can see probably I'm lighting up. I am, and I absolutely loved it. I did. That's why everyone says, why did you leave? Well, you can love something and still leave it.
Absolutely. And leaving it, was happy with that decision, comfortable with that decision, or was there a transition period where you were sort of thinking, I'm missing this a bit?
No.
Or a lot?
No, there was a good 12 months of me umming and ahhing before I made my decision. Maybe not quite 12 months. Yeah. And then I tried to do both, which was interesting. I tried to do some cases and work in the business, but that really didn't work. I'm the sort of person I am. I give of my all.
You're all in.
I'm all in. And I had to make a choice. And the choice I've chose, which I never regretted. I had a wonderful, wonderful 10 years as a criminal defence barrister. And I've had a wonderful now 16 years in business and running business, and it lights me up. I can feel it as I'm talking to you again. It's different. It's incomparable, although the transferable skills are all there.
Well, that brings me on to something. What is it as, excuse me, that as a barrister, what could you take from that was of an advantage to Aubrey Allen? Because somebody coming in from, although you knew the business, but coming from the outside, I love it when people come from the outside in because they see things in a different way, ask loads of what we might think are obvious questions, but then you start thinking, well, hang on a minute, why do we do it like that? So did that bring a different dimension to Aubrey Allen when you joined?
Yes, I think so, because I have a very logical brain that questions everything. Naturally, that's what I did for 10 years, was ask questions. And also I have an ability, I suppose, to take a lot of information, read it very quickly and summarise it. Again, that's a skill you learn as a barrister. Yeah. And my ignorance, although laughed about at times, particularly when I got feeling port muddled in the early days, but my ignorance was the strength. Because I would go in there and I say, well, why are we doing this? Yeah. When I joined, we used to answer the phone at 3 a.m. and still get the vans out by 4 o'clock. And I said, well, why are we answering the phone? What if we let the chefs leave a message and we could then listen to it several times over, because sometimes it can be difficult to hear and the audio back then wasn't great. And gradually everyone said, no, we can't do it. And I said, well, why should we just try? Because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I didn't know.
The sin is not trying.
Yeah.
Because whatever happens, you're going to come out the other end as a better person. And going back to voicemail, answer phone, call it what you will, no doubt you will have come across it where you get the very heavily accented voice that's then going to try and set the world record for saying as many words they can in 60 seconds while somebody's throwing the pans around the kitchen at the same time. But eventually you do work out what they're saying.
Yeah, eventually.
Eventually. Yeah. Stand in different places in the office to listen to it and get other people involved. But you get there eventually. A quick resume then of the history of Aubrey Allen. Now, from my point of view, I always knew you was a meat business, and I've known it like that forever. But then, obviously, that changed. So if we go back to the beginning of the story of the Aubrey Allen business, and then perhaps you could tell us about how cheese came to be part of what was a meat business.
So it all started with a boy on his bike. My grandfather, who was orphaned, got digs above a butcher's shop, so it was just purely fate. And he would deliver on his bike and everything else. Then he got the first slaughter licence in Coventry in 1933. used to slaughter the animals at the back, sell it at the front. He'd slaughter it himself.
Yeah.
And big, strong man he was, Aubrey. He shut up shop for the war and then came back to it in the Blitz with my grandmother, Lucianne Allen, formidable and fantastic woman. And they set up a taxi business at the front. Butchery at the front, taxis at the back, and a room in the middle for the children to live. That was it.
Interesting. So there's a bit of a theme going here, isn't there? We've got butchers and taxis, and we've got butchers and barristers.
Yeah, and there is a link, of course, between taxis and barristers, because taxi drivers and barristers are both ruled by the cab rank rule. So as barristers, you can't
pick it, can you?
Whatever comes, you have to say yes.
The next brief is yours.
Unless there are extraordinary reasons to say no. Exactly so. But anyway, so Grandad grew that to 7 shops through Coventry. My dad moved into the butchery business, my uncle to the taxis. And, and then Dad was actually the youngest shop manager nationally for a butcher shop called Dewhurst. He wanted to go and work for somebody else and build his own success, so he did. He then went back to his father and said, look, I want to run these shops and I'm going to open my own shop in Leamington Spa. Everyone thought he was mad. We're Coventry people. You can't open 7 miles down the road in Leamington Spa.
Need a passport to go there.
That's it. Those were the days. But he had the vision of it in 1980. And then in the early 90s, he had that vision of food service really taking off. Because when we were growing up, you know, you could have scampi and chips at the golf club. There'd be a pub that did pie and chips or something, and there'd always be an Italian restaurant. And that was more or less your lot, certainly outside of London. Yeah,
and of course scampi and chips came in a basket as well.
It certainly did.
Very posh.
So then, meanwhile, as the years moved on, my brother trained as a chef. He then went into the Leamington shop and revolutionised it from butcher's shop to kind of delicatessen. He also set up his own restaurant round the corner, both of which are still highly successful today. And then 15 years ago, Russ took over the wholesale business, food service side. And, of course, he'd had the delicatessen. So he was great friends with Simeon, who many people know and love, Simeon Hudson-Evans, in the cheese world. They got together and said, you've supplied me for cheese for years, Sim. You seem to know more about cheese than anyone I've ever met. Would you have some dinner with me? So they had some dinner together, and Simeon said, well, I like the cheese side, but the nuts and bolts and the paperwork and the delivery is less so. And so the marriage was born, as it were.
So was that a plan that sort of Russell was hatching? Was it a definite thought, or was it just happened to be right place, right time, right person, and the stars aligned?
Yeah, exactly so. And as you know, Rob, our business is as much about filling those vans as anything else as well on the business side of stuff. And meat and cheese travel amicably together.
Good bedfellows for sure. And did I see... So a number of years ago, you got the Royal Warrant for the meat.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was 2012, I think.
Yeah, because this could be an urban myth, but I understand that your dad was so pleased about it. The following day, the Royal Warrant was actually on the door of the premises saying, we've actually got it. I know it was pretty quick off the mark.
It was, but Dad, having run the business all those years, it coincided with Russ taking over, and the Royal Warrant is actually in someone's name, so the Royal Warrant was in Russell's name.
Oh, so it's in the name of an individual, not a business.
It is. So we had great fun that Christmas saying, Dad, you did all those years. Look at me. I've been in the job a week and got a Royal Warrant. So.
I didn't realise that. That's interesting. So whoever's got a Royal Warrant, if it said, I don't know, Coleman's Mustard,
it would be Mr. Coleman if such a person existed.
Interesting.
That's it. That. Yeah, it has to be in the name. It's an individual. You are a Royal Warrant holder.
Okay, and has that followed through on cheese? Or
it has. We're absolutely delighted. We were absolutely devastated, as everyone was, for the demise of the late Queen. And everyone said, what happens to your warrant?
It did happen to the warrant. So at that point, yes, it was with Elizabeth II. What happened then?
We had to reapply.
Yes.
For the King's warrant. The rules of engagement had changed significantly. A lot more focus, as you would imagine, on... even more focus. There was always focus on provenance and sustainability, but even more so.
Yeah.
But we were absolutely delighted not only to get the King's warrant for meat, but to have the cheese added, because 600 warrants under the Queen, 300 under the King.
Oh, it was only half as many.
Yeah. So we were so fortunate and really, really excited about that.
Fabulous. That's quite an accomplishment, considering that the business was steeped in history of meat, and in comparatively a relatively short space of time, you've become as good at cheese as you are in meat. The king thinks so why not?
I like that way of putting it. I've not thought of it that way, but
okay. So, talking about one thing that perplexes me is beef from dairy, beef from beef stock. What are the differences?
Wow.
What are the differences?
Huge difference.
So that's a question with a big answer.
It is a question with a big answer. Luckily, I'm the least technical person in the business, so you'll get my answer. I was brought up by my dad saying, look at those horrible, scrawny dairy cows.
Yeah.
I used to wonder what he was going on to. They looked about all right to me. So beef cattle, so all the beef that we take is from proper beef cattle.
Yeah, so they're bred for purpose.
You got it.
Yeah.
The dairy are bred for milk. So back in the day, we'd have the Holsteins. Sorry, not the Holsteins, beg your pardon, the Friesians.
Yes.
Nice little cows, breed the milk. And historically, to get some return on investment, you'd get the farmers sort of breeding with the old Angus and putting some beef through. It wouldn't be great, but it'd be okay. But we stick to the beef breeds that were made for it. Your Herefords, your Anguses, Longhorns, things like that. They can put on meat and fat to bone much, much better than the dairy can. The dairy simply can't. They're skinny, bony animals. They can't put on the fat. They can't, which give meat flavour. They can't put on the level of meat. And so when the Holstein Friesians came in, my dad always maintains that was a disaster because you just couldn't make anything near half decent beef with it. And so the dairy returns program was set up, and that is used to give the dairy farmers some return and to put to use the calves, the boys. Yeah. Which would be criminal not to use them.
Yeah.
And that goes into your sort of supermarket beef and things like that.
Yeah.
More shocking, I think, Rob, which people won't realise, is in this country with wonderful grass for growing fantastic beef, 80% of all steaks consumed in this country are imported.
No way.
Yes way.
80%?
Yeah.
Where's it coming from?
Places with no heritage for beef. We're talking like Namibia, places like that. Cheaply grown beef coming in. It's a scandal that people don't know about.
Needs talking about, that does. It doesn't. That does need talking about, because
it does.
80% of it being imported is an unbelievable. So why is that? What drives that?
You have got, I won't name anyone, but you've got these very, very big chains that want to sell stuff very, very cheaply.
Yeah.
And I think that will continue until people start challenging it. Yes, people are challenging these things more and more and more. But when you can get a pint, get a chicken in this country as well for less than a pint of beer, there's something going very, very wrong. And yes, I understand we've got to feed the world and everything else. I understand that. And these are the arguments people give me in exchange of it. But on the other hand, like my brother says, never throw, and not even I, and I don't cook and I hate it. I won't throw a chicken carcass away. I couldn't bring myself to. You've got your roast chicken, and then you've got whole new sets of meals and the scrapings and everything else from the whole chicken.
Yeah, and then making some stock up at the end of it with whatever's left.
So nourishing and actually makes chicken really cost effective. So yeah, I think it's driven by a lot of the great big chains that just see that.
Yeah.
It's
cheap made.
As cheap meat. And so when we get people coming to us going, well, how much is your steak? Well, where's your provenance? And I'm afraid a lot of people still don't understand that what they'll have is not what they necessarily think.
Right. So am I right?
I'm sure you got the same in your industry, haven't you?
Absolutely, yes. That's it, but that's... and you try and explain, and generally, but who's going to listen and who isn't going to listen.
Yeah.
And we tend to be dealing with the people that listen.
We do. We were having a nice chat earlier, weren't we, about some mutual clients.
Yeah.
Those people completely understand, they get it, they want the best, and
That's
right. they know their stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Fresho for sponsoring this episode. Fresho provides order management and AI order entry software that fresh food suppliers love. From automating how you receive orders, to picking, pricing, delivering, invoicing, and payments, Fresho makes your business run better. And it's all backed with 24/7 support, so you get the help when you need it. To find out more, go to fresho.com.
Am I right in thinking that the beef has gone up an awful lot over the last 12 months? And so that's a yes. What's driving it? And well, okay, let's go back 12 months, and what in percentage terms, how much dearer is it now than what it was?
40%.
40%.
July to about April, May last year went up 40%. This year, so July last year to May this year went up 40%, 40.
Right. So what's driving it?
Driving it is cattle numbers are getting fewer and fewer each year.
And is that because...
And that's globally.
Right. And is that because people aren't making enough money out of it? Because if they're making plenty of money, there'll be plenty of cattle.
The difficulty is when farmers see these steep rises that we've had in beef, then they think, oh, well, we'll get into it.
That's it.
But it takes...
3 years.
You got it. 3.5 years, really. Yeah. So then you've got this lapse in time. So there's a number of factors driving it. But despite what you may read in the press, demand for beef in particular remains extremely high.
Yeah, so it's purely supply and demand, and it's a cyclical type thing because, okay, it's the price is very high at the moment. That's going to draw people into it. So if you did it on a straight line basis, 3 years from now, one would imagine you're going to see cheaper beef because there's going to be a much bigger supply.
Won't happen.
Why's that?
Won't happen. Don't know. It's like the cycle of it. It becomes this kind of flattening out, steadying. You're not saying such huge increases, but it seems to always find its level, if you know what I mean. It never drops back to what it was. But to put in context, to let you know what a challenging year it's been and how proactive we've had to be as a business. Not only have we had all the NI and everything else from April, with this beef, I think we put beef up something around 17% on a 40% incline.
Well, how do you make that work? That doesn't.
Well, you just have to take a lesser margin, gross margin, and work the business as well as we can. Yeah. And that's sort of what part of the business I love working in. And I had been working for the last 2 years on that. So in a sense, it was good timing. Yeah. Was getting the business into as best shape as we can, which is all of our jobs, to drive those efficiencies whilst keeping your quality high, your culture high. We won't compromise on those two things, culture and quality. Is what sets us apart. Yeah. But it's those things like looking at your deliveries, like looking at, saturating your vans a bit more, or where you're buying your cardboard from, or reducing your packaging, which we did by about 170%, if such a percentage exists.
It's interesting. So, turning the problem into an opportunity.
Precisely so. You've got to. I mean, at the end of the day...
Absolutely. To me, there's no such thing as a problem. No. There's only ever an opportunity. Sometimes it takes longer to find the opportunity. But one thing's for sure, you'll come out the other end a better person than you went into it because you'll have known more. That's it. You'll have learned.
You just got to, if you're in boating terms, you hit the waves, you just got to adjust the sails.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, and like you say, you start looking at the little things.
Yeah.
And in isolation, they don't mean much. But when you bring them all together, they can make quite a significant difference.
Yeah.
But you do have to go looking for the little things because they're not as obvious as we're spending way too much on diesel and things like that.
That's it, because you're a well-run business anyway. And you sit there, and I suppose that's one of the things I can do. I don't know why. Perhaps it's being brought up in businesses. I can kind of just look at things and think, not sure that looks right. I don't necessarily have the skills to fix it, but I dig.
Yeah.
I find the people around me that are much cleverer than I am, and they fix it. But the other thing we've done, and again, that's finding opportunity in crisis. You've met Simon Smith, I know, at events. Yeah. And he's absolutely fabulous with his knowledge of chefs. And we've gone to people and said, look, we understand you can't keep putting that cut of beef on. So how about this one?
Look at the alternative.
And so, your partnerships actually strengthen. You're helping them. And yes, your sales go down because that might not cost, we won't be charging as much. But in the long term, that's what you're in for, the long term. It's not.
Absolutely.
We're not here for next week and
no.
the month after or even the year after.
No. It's as far forward as you can see and further than that as well. That's for sure.
I'd love to know the analogy in yours. What do you swap out in veg? I mean, do you have that?
Because we do get peaks and troughs. I mean, the weather is the biggest driver. Where if you get unusual weather conditions, be it very, very hot, very, very dry, very cold, whatever you like, because all of these things are growing outside at the mercy of the weather. You can either have an oversupply or an undersupply situation. But it doesn't tend to be everything being short in supply at a moment in time. It's certain products from certain places. Right. And then it's a question of, well, okay, then if maybe don't use that particular vegetable, these are the alternatives. Some might work, some might not. So
that's why we see seasonal greens.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they can have that flexibility.
Absolutely.
Same as butcher's cut steak.
Yeah, it could. You're right. It could be absolutely anything. And also, from our point of view, it's quite challenging to also give too much forward information, because if I knew what the weather was going to be in 3 months' time, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now, because I'd be sitting on a beach in the Bahamas, because I would have officially cracked it at that point. But interesting that the biggest theme I hear now from growers and producers is weather events and how they're having to deal with them. Extremes of heat, extreme dry, extreme rain. That's a big driver, extreme rainfall. And weather events is a very, very popular topic now. And how
it's the same for us.
Yeah, absolutely, because what you're selling and what I'm selling are basically, they're not manufactured. It's grown, it's produced, it's reared, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And that is, this weather is challenging. I mean, interestingly enough, I mean, I know that when you get above a certain temperature with different crops, they get stressed and they just go into survival mode, and they stop growing. They just exist. Is that true of livestock, whereby if it's just that hot, they're not going to put the growth on because they're just having to survive?
I don't know, but what I would say, obviously, in the instance of cattle, is grazing animals. Farmers love it, sheep and cattle, because they eat grass, which is, on the face of it, free.
Yeah.
On the face of it. I know there's more to it there. I can hear all the farmers screaming at me.
Yeah.
There's land management and everything else. And they've got to be supplying them with plenty of water. The good ones will make sure that there's shelter.
Yeah.
For example, I remember saying to Dad years ago, oh my God, what's our Scottish beef farmer going to do if we've got snow and we're not functioning? What's it going to be like in Scotland? He went, Luge, this isn't their first rodeo.
No, exactly.
They keep the cows in it. I think this is when they keep the cattle in at this time of year. So they'll be set up to give the cattle the optimum of life. However, a long dry summer, you're now looking at farmers wanting to put cattle through early that won't have the finish that we always want, and we only take the top 1% of the best beef in the country. So it's very tight grade we work to.
Really? The top 1%?
Of the top grade of beef cattle, not dairy. Which is tiny. Yeah, so then they'll put them through, because otherwise they've got to start giving them some grain to finish them and fatten them up. So there's that balance. Farmers get paid for the bigger the fat of the animal, but if they're going to have to pay for grain, they cut their losses and get the cattle in a little bit earlier. That superficially appears to help the numbers, but when you're talking about our grade, it doesn't always help us.
Yeah, interesting point. Do you see any consolidation of suppliers going forward in your sector? I know I've got my views on the fruit and veg world, but do you see any consolidation? Do you see people getting out of it? Do you see businesses coming together? Do you have any views on that?
Clearly I do. I've seen it in the law. So you used to have lots of high street solicitors, and that went because government, any creed or colour, don't worry about it. They made it difficult for people to be solicitors. You had to go through more licensing and this and that. So they all consolidated, and we saw that coming. I think we're in a similar situation now to an extent. I think your specialists like you and like we are, and flying fish, will always have a place, because when you are consolidating, you are no longer the experts. And I think the people that we deal with want that expertise. You get people that think, oh, well, I can do that burger at that price and it doesn't matter. And, they're going down the road to ruin, because our chefs would be up in arms on the phone complaining left, right and centre.
Yes.
And they want what they want. So if we take a rump, for example, off the animal, we probably have, on the rump alone, we've got about 7 different cuts. Please see our YouTube channel for the butchery video. We've got 7 different cuts just from the rump. And then you might have 40 different specifications within that rump.
Yeah.
A chef wants what a chef wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want a 1 kilo piece of topside vacuum packed and delivered because that's all they can put on offer, because to try and control butchery stocks and to have specialists into butchery. Look, I'm sure some people will, in 15, 20 years' time, get to the point when they have a proper butchery unit and everything else. Maybe. But I think that's going to be the difference. You're going to get these people might consolidate and might give the delivery, and the cheap price might be there, but the pain of the poor quality will last much longer than the pleasure of a quick, cheap price.
So you've had a different dimension of that. So not only are you taking the top 1% for the quality of the meat, you're saying then you adapt to all the different cuts, the specifications that your customers want. Now, we do something similar with fresh produce. You know, like how thick is the asparagus got to be? You know, has it got to be pencil thin? Has it got to be as thick as your finger? I mean, and very simply, how we get around that is that we freeze samples of customers' products. Because if you say want beetroot golf ball size, well, if you don't play golf, you don't necessarily know what a golf ball is. So we freeze samples of products. So somebody's packing a given order, they can go to the freezer, they can get the box that's got the frozen samples in, they go, right, okay, then I'll match that. That beetroot's too big, no good. That one's the size. It's ridiculous. It's basic, but it's incredibly effective.
Yeah, we use photographs and measurements. You know, I clamp down on that.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? Paddy spec. Paddy was a butcher that used to work in the unit. Doesn't work. I'm like, we can't have that. This was 16 years ago. We've got to formalise that a bit. Or thick cut steak. Well, what I think's a thick cut steak, and you think's a thick cut steak.
Absolutely.
So we use measurements. The screens in the unit all have the photographs. But one thing I've not mentioned, which I think is important, is we're quite unique in what we do, to the level at which we do it. So we purchase whole. So
whole carcass.
If you're talking about your consolidation people, they'll be buying vac pack joints and what have you straight from supplier, vac packed and out. There's no provenance, there's no traceability, there's no specification. It's just get what you're given. So we buy it into our specifications. We buy whole rump and loins, whole size of beef. We buy the whole lambs. You come and you see it. And we then have a first phase unit that breaks that down. Everybody in our own industry thinks we're bonkers because the level of skill that you need to break down all of those carcasses and the number of people, if we were in based central London, we wouldn't be able to afford it. No one would.
Interesting.
So being an hour, what are we, an hour and 20 from London actually makes all the difference. And we grow our own, so we have our own apprenticeship scheme.
I'm going to say, I mean, recruiting great people is difficult for any type of business, but it feels like recruiting people to do butchery to that level, that feels like quite a big ask. So you get through that by the raw recruit and you train them.
That's right. I mean, we put an application out just internally the other week, and I think we had about 8 people wanting to be apprentices.
Really?
We've then got to test them on dexterity and things like that. And, you know, you might from that particular intake have 4 really good ones. We've got the world champion butcher that trains them. Mick Perkins actually won and the equivalent of the Bocuse d'Or, but for butchery.
Oh, right.
A number of years ago. Yeah, the French weren't impressed. They were not happy. These brutal English butchers.
Oops. Sorry if I've offended. Sorry, we might need to cut that bit out.
So, so we grow our own. And you're right. And so it was my brother actually 4 years ago said, I want people in the local area saying to their children when they're leaving school, you want to work at Aubrey Allen like the old factory used to. And the amount of families we have working in the unit is fantastic. So we've managed to not only grow our own, but when everyone else has been having a crisis in recruitment, we've got a queue at the door, which is fantastic.
How do you and Russell get on?
Really well.
Because in family businesses, it's not always the case.
We talk about this and we do get on really well. Our children get on. You know, it's like a cross between, I say this and I feel so old, but I'm hoping you'll know what I mean. A cross between the Waltons and the Ewings at times. But
John Boy versus JR. Yeah.
So,
to anybody who's under 60 years old that's listening to this, that J.R. Ewing was in a, we'll call it American soap opera.
Soap opera, yeah, a big oil merchant, family business.
Called Dallas. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, and the Waltons.
And the Waltons were possibly even before Dallas, I think.
Possibly. They were the sort of hit family that just got on so well. And
not John Boy, not Mary Ellen.
That's the one. So we do get on really, really well. I'm sure people don't believe us, but people obviously in the business, they can see it. We share an office. There's a lot of laughter coming out of there, which is always a good sign. We go on holiday together and always have done since we were teenagers.
Goodness
Not
me.
all the time, but
but some of the time.
Very happily, and the two families, Russell and his wife and his two children.
Sometimes there can be the polar opposite to that. I mean, you've probably seen it, I have, where you've almost got warring factions in the same music.
Well, Russ has got the skills that I don't or don't want to do, and kind of vice versa. So we've always really matched each other. He's very entrepreneurial, fantastic with culture is very much his baby, how we do things around here and the values. And I love to get involved with the nuts and bolts of improving business.
So on the basis that you've said that you sort of can't cook, won't cook.
True. Ask Clive Dixon, quick reference there in case he listens in.
What's Clive doing these days?
He's doing menu consultancy business.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen him for years.
Yeah, he's done a lot of work in France over the last few years. And he goes into businesses and helps them with their menus and make money and stock control and run kitchens.
Yeah, gifted individual he was.
Yeah.
Probably still is. I'm not saying he's lost it. If you're listening, Clive, I do apologise for that. If there's one restaurant in the world that you've been to and could go back to, which one would it be and why?
For me, and I'll be diplomatic, because if I choose one in
I'm going to say,
Britain, I'll upset
I know the feeling.
one Frenchman or another. So I'm going to go for Arzac in San Sebastian.
Right.
I only went there a couple of years ago with Russ, actually, and the board, Simon. Why would I choose that? Because sadly or otherwise, it's not often in life you sit there and go, wow, I'm goosebumping about it now. So Russell's PA Lisa had booked it. We didn't say anything about, who we are in industry, but she clocked it on the email, and she said, I thought you might like a kitchen tour. Mention the connection
I love going
between us and the Ruse.
Yeah.
And then the maitre d' was just phenomenal. He came and took us order and he said, if you order something you don't like, we'll just cook you something else. They would just...
Did they cook anything you didn't like?
No, they didn't. It was all absolutely delicious and phenomenal. It was class. It was proper hospitality. It was making you feel at home. It was sommeliers that aren't starting at the, crazy prices. It's actually try this wonderful Spanish brandy at the end. Please do. It's fantastic. And, and it wasn't expensive. But it was just how they treated us. The food was phenomenal. It's 3 stars, of course.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It was everything around
the whole
it.
package,
it's the heart of it, which was amazing.
Yeah. And the older you get, the more difficult you are to impress with those going to those places because it's a numbers game. The longer you're around, the more places you eat at, then you just become harder to impress.
You can be.
And occasionally you go somewhere and it's like, you can really appreciate it, but you're looking for that wow. And that sounds like you've got that.
It was wow. And I won't spoil it for anyone in case they haven't been and want to go, but what they do at the end as well blew me away.
Probably give you a bill that's eye-wateringly big.
No, it really wasn't actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not for what you're getting. I can't remember.
It wasn't cheap, but it represented great value.
It represented great value.
And that's the bit that matters. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same restaurant, though. Anybody, alive or dead, would you go back there with? So I know you've been with Russ.
Yeah.
But now you've got the choice of anybody that's ever lived or still alive. Who would you go back there with and why? So we know where you're going, now who you're taking.
I'm going to take my nan, my Cockney grandmother, Nanny Allen.
Right. Cockney, so where was she from in London then?
She was born within the Bow Bells, so I mean she was proper.
That's bizarre.
Cockney.
So was one of my grandmas.
Yeah.
She was a proper Cockney.
She was a proper Cockney.
Yeah.
Brought up, met my granddad Aubrey and then came during the Blitz to Coventry, which seemed like a sideways move if ever I knew one.
Yeah.
But why my nan? Because she was just, we all talk about Aubrey all the time. It's the name of our business. His portrait hangs in our offices.
That's a nice touch. I like
his
that.
name's above the door. Mm. What people don't know is the behind the scenes of Aubrey Allen was this phenomenal, intelligent woman that, loved working in the business, had a great brain, but was so adored by every single grandchild. She was a tough woman, is what I'm saying.
But your adoration is written all over your face.
It's written all over my face. I mean, she kept a revolver by her bedside table. This wasn't a nan that knitted.
Oh, she's not to mess with then?
She wasn't to mess with. No. But we all felt extremely safe. We were brought up by her to never judge anyone. You don't judge anyone in life. And she used to bring the prostitutes in around the streets where they were in Coventry for a cup of tea and a piece of toast. She'd say they're some poor person's daughter. It's not their fault.
And it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, I'm not gonna go down that particular rabbit hole of what I think of that, but no, I won't go there.
No, don't go there. But
no.
So my nan, because I'd give anything just to spend that time with her, and we used to go out for meals together. We used to go to Andrea Santona's first restaurant, Simpson's in Kenilworth. We used to go there and we used to say, well, we're not feeling very hungry, and then we'd end up having his signature dish, which was mashed potato with a great big lamb shank and gravy and then pudding. And you always used to say, it's a good job we're not hungry, isn't it, Lou? Christ knows how much we'd eat then. So, yeah.
I can't thank you enough for coming because I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned so many different things about the meat industry that I knew nothing about. And I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I hope you've got everything off your chest that you wanted to get off your chest. Anything you feel as though that's on the missing list that you want to get out there?
I don't think so. Thank you, Rob.
Well, thank you. So, Lucianne Allen, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to Supplied. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow Supplied Podcast on Instagram, where we'd love to get your questions and suggestions for future guests. See you next time.